Um, got it. How do you guys decipher the difference between energies that come into your auric field? How have you guys learned between some like, for example, when people think about their significant like exes or their significant others or family members or just people in general that come to mind? How what are some as far as your personal experiences of concerned are concerned, how do you decipher them whether it's them or if it's you?
I, for one, I have things set up. As far as my team, all right, it can get kind of confusing because different team members feel different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so only through connecting with them constantly did I get to know who they were. When they first come in, it throws me for a loop because I don't know who it is.
Right.
Um, as far as like, let's say ancestors go, I get I get a feeling of like when you see your mom or when you see your dad, like someone that you're kind of close to in your family, like that feeling, that's what I kind of feel when I get like an ancestor. And then I
Mm-hmm.
have to sit and actually decipher who it is, right?
Right.
And like that's where I had to learn to set up like, if it's female left, if it's male right, like, give me heat or touch me on this side, whatever, and things like that. So it gets I'm still kind of learning on how to differentiate a lot of things.
Mhm.
But it's getting better. That's where the importance of setting boundaries comes in
Mhm.
because it's like, okay, you're not going to touch me because some of them like to be touchy touchy. You're not going
Right.
to touch me. You're not going to, mix in with mine. You're not going to just come in willy nilly. And that's where boundaries are important because this is how you're going to come to me so that I know that it's you.
Yeah. So tying that question and that insight into my next question. So the when we're going over uh you know teaching people or those of you that are still developing your intuition and energy and learning how to differentiate energies and feelings and sensations and all of that stuff, what is your guys' insight on the importance of self-development and feeling feelings and all of that stuff? What have you guys come to learn in your guys' practice when it comes to self-development and learning to differentiate energies?
I'll chime in on that one. Honestly, I'm one to fuck around and find out. And I've had to learn the hard way multiple times. And one of my biggest things that I had was boundaries. So again, it's important to keep those boundaries because my team likes to mount, which is another word for possession, and they
Yeah.
like to take over me. And sometimes they don't want to leave, and then that turns into a whole nother problem. So for me, it's setting your boundaries, being firm on it, but also being familiar with your teammates, sitting with them, learning the do's and don'ts, because for me, I'm all stranger danger. Like I shut down completely if there's something in my energy that is unfamiliar, even if it's my own team that I didn't, haven't introduced myself yet to. So I'm learning to just having main three people in my team who is like the bouncer at the door. Like you have to check in with them first in order for you to get to me. So that's been really helpful that I've learned to help me because if you can't pass the bouncer, you're not welcome in here.
Yeah, those boundaries are super important. So in the discussion and topics of love, uh, when energy exchanges when it comes to partners and partnerships, how do you decide when you have um, very heavy subconscious patterns revolving around, um, it's not, I don't want to just use unhealthy relationship styles, but codependency and um, narcissistic tendencies and things like that. When you're in those types of relationships, it's hard to be able to decipher the energies when it comes to manipulation, right? Because what is manipulation? It's the ability to be able to assess an energetic boundary, mimic it, and then use it for your advantage, right? So when it comes to the spiritual world and when it comes to applying those lessons in the mundane world and partnerships and relationships, how have you learned to decipher what is within your highest good versus what is a repeated cycle of your subconscious patterns? So subconscious patterns might look at love bombing like a sign of affection, for example. How do you learn to decipher that energy? How do you, how, what, at what point do you know that you're being love bombed?
For me personally, I've struggled with this, so I can speak personally. Um, it's working on yourself and working inward, because I use sex as self-sabotaging. And that's how I found that I thought someone loved me, is through
Mhm.
sexual relations, because of my past trauma, my childhood trauma. So for me to finally understand what love is understanding what I do and don't want, and really studying the pattern of what love bombing is, and really just being true love and genuine. And one of the things for me was the 3 months, 6 months rule,
Mhm.
really waiting for that person to really show yourself, because some narcissists are really good and they'll surpass that 3 month rule. And then when you get to the 6 month is when their patience run thin, and that's when they start to slip up. So really
Mhm.
start working on your own inner healing to figure out what is it that you want, and know your own patterns, so you can start learning other people's patterns, and really things will start being more noticeable, because you've already healed that part of you and you pay attention to more things. So that's just for me personally.
Yeah. And so when it comes to let's talk about established relationships, because what I'm noticing, at least, and collective, you're more than welcome to jump in at any time with questions that we're more than happy to answer, especially revolving around love and partnerships and things like that. um, those of you that have been in long-term relationships, right? Marriages, partnerships, long-term relationships. Uh, what are some things that you've noticed when it comes to uh, growth patterns or not growth patterns, um, relationships that, based off of your definition of love and based off of your goals within a relationship, what are some things that you guys have learned when it comes to growing as a team or growing as a unit? And this, what I mean by this is, for those of you that have been in long-term relationships, you guys know that you and your partner, you guys grow. And it's not always 50-50. It's 60-40, 80-20, right? And you truly learn in long-term relationships that it's never equal give and take, right? The energy exchange is kind of what I'm talking about here. It's the applied effort in long-term relationships. Now, when you get into these toughs where your partner, let's say, goes through a 3 to 6 month period of depression, because it happens, right? What are some things that you guys, what are some things that you guys go through mentally and spiritually during this process? And this can be kind of like questioning the integrity of the relationship, questioning the validity of their love for you. What are some things that you guys go through during periods of challenges within relationships? And what do you do to overcome them? Or for some of you, are you guys in that period right now where you're questioning the authenticity of your relationship, and what are you currently going through? Because the first two questions kind of paving a way for this type of topic when it comes to identifying what a healthy relationship means to you. because here we all have different definitions of healthy relationships because of one, what we've been through, two, what we've healed, and three, what we're looking for. So based off of your guys' experience, and some of you guys in here are married, some of you guys are in long-term relationships, and some of you guys are single looking for that long-term relationship. So this is kind of like more or less bouncing off opinions, thoughts, ideas, and experiences. For the betterment of evolution of both people. Let me take a look at the comments here. So
can I go
spirituality. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So what I want to say, my perspective on that is sometimes when that happens and you have a spouse that's going through a depression or they have just gotten comfortable and there's no longer that equal energy exchange, I find that in fact there can be where one of the partners becomes an energy vampire and they just get comfortable and they know that you're going to continue to do the work and you're going to continue to put forward and you're going to continue growing. So that's okay because you're moving forward. So you'll just backpack them and put them on together. And if it goes on for too long, there gets a point where I feel of no return, where the resentment grows because it's like, I'm growing, I'm doing my work, I'm doing everything I need to do, and I'm carrying you, I'm dragging you along with me. And then and there's been points you can sit them down and say, hey, I need you to do the work. I need you to do the work. It's trickling down on me. And they're like, no, it's fine. It's fine. Or they'll tell you like, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, of course. And then it doesn't change. And you have to look. And I think there's a point where you have to go, either you're going to do it or you're not. And you'll know when you look at them, whether they're going to actually do it or not. And if they're not, it's time to go, because you cannot let someone drain you forever and hold back your own journey. There's just a time where you have to cut it, as painful as it may be, and say, my growth is up here. I've been doing the work. I'm going to continue doing the work. You're back there and you're not even willing to take the first step. I can't invest in you anymore. I have to go.
So you made a point, or you covered a topic of comfort in relationships, comfort in partnerships. And there was this, I don't know, I wouldn't even consider it a seminar, but maybe I was just listening to different perspectives of successful marriages, right? At what point do you start dating your partner, and at what point does it end?
It never ends. It should never end, but it does. Okay. Because of what Tiffany just said, of that feeling of having to drag along this 200-pound lug of shit, you know, and it gets tiring. And you get to the point where you're like, you're either in it or you're not. And if you're not, I gotta go. Because one thing about marriage is people go into it with this false sense of, if I find my person, I will be happy. And that's not how it works, because marriage is hard. It's freaking hard. It's difficult. And it's something that you have to work on always, because people change. The same way you change, your partner changes too. So it's something, open communication is something that is really needed, especially in the difficult times, because that's when we tend to shut down, right? Because that's what we know, most of us anyway. We shut down and we just go along and we do whatever needs to be done, and we don't talk about it, and we just do. We act, but we don't reflect, and we don't like to take accountability for maybe something that we did that hurt them. And maybe they don't know how to communicate that with us. But a point I wanted to make was, before you get into any type of relationship, you have to know how to love yourself, and you have to be happy within yourself in order to bring that together. So they have to be happy with themselves and love themselves, and you with yourself, and bring that together, and you can both be happy together. You cannot rely on somebody else to make you happy, because they're never going to be able to make you happy, especially if you don't know what's going to make you happy.
Yeah. So Anna just asked, is this still about depression or unwillingness to level up? I feel like the lines are kind of blurred here, and that's a great question. So when it comes to, utilizing depression as a starting point when discussing challenges within a relationship, it's just one of many things that people struggle with on a regular basis, not even just in partnerships and relationships, right? But as far as a talking point, when we are with a partner or we are the partner struggling with depression, right? What do we know about depression? Well, to be honest with you, not a whole lot. You know, when you start therapy or you start seeing your psychiatrist, right? You know, you go through this seemingly endless game of trivial pursuit to identify what it is that's going on mentally, right? And, you know, trying to figure out solutions and basically coming down to, you know, closing out or outruling any other, you know, diagnoses that you could have. And sometimes it leads down to depression. So they give you meds and you go to therapy and you talk it out, right? Well, what is depression? And that's something that I don't think people really talk about in its entirety. So understanding the nature of depression, and how, and when it comes to communication, like Liz was saying, in partnerships, I can tell you that the sky is blue, but if your understanding of blue is a shade of periwinkle, it's not communication, it's comprehension, right? So if we're struggling with communication, meaning we don't know the words to be able to describe what it is that we're feeling, then yes, communication is a challenge in partnerships and relationships long term. And something else, just again, just a different level of perspective coming from my understanding is that keeping around the topic of depression in partnerships and relationships, dating is the process in which you go through the challenges with your partner. Dating is the part of your relationship where you continue to get to know your partner. It's the learning the communication styles, learning the love languages, learning about the likes, dislikes, what, you know, you like on your turkey sandwich and all of that stuff. Dating is the challenge. Marriage is the traveling, the building memories, the having fun. And it's not to say that when you're in the courting phase or the dating phase of your relationship that it can't be fun. But my perspective of seeing partnerships and relationships when it comes to dating is that you should constantly be learning about your partner because you are constantly growing and changing, right? So if you're, you know, putting in this effort to continuing to learn about your partner, their likes and dislikes, and sometimes it's even on a subconscious level where it's just automatic. For example, you know, your partner comes home from work and their immediate response is to kick their boots off at the door. You know, they throw their dirty laundry on the bathroom floor next to the hamper. They jump in the shower. They come out and they're wet feet all over the floor, whatever it might be. But your response, like your nurturing tendencies, are going to come in and pick the laundry up off the floor, clean off the bathroom floor. Dinner is going to be made. It's constantly learning about different things about your partner and coming back to spirituality, energy exchanges. How do you know when energy has shifted? And that's where the first question came into play is how do you learn to differentiate energies when it comes to your spirit team? How do you really know? Well, you have to sit with them. So when it comes to depression, depression is, in the worst explanation ever, is the aftermath of your body shutting down from being overstimulated by emotions. So you're numb and you're exhausted because these emotions are still running. This energy is still draining, but you can't process them. So it's this mental and emotional hamster wheel that you're constantly going through and no words are coming out. So coming back and bringing this full circle from first question to second question to third question when it comes to partnerships and relationships and what you're even looking for in a partnership or relationship. And again, it's not just setting boundaries for yourself and for your partner because those are healthy in all relationship dynamics. It's, you know when to love, but do you know when to stop? Because when it comes to depression, it's important to have a sense of patience and accountability and compassion and empathy. and to continue to nurture the needs and to continue to support and to continue to love. But at what point, if any, because again, this is someone that struggled with depression, someone that's also been with someone that struggled with depression, you know, if and when does it stop? When do you retract that attention towards your partner and bring it back to self? And is there a process and or time within the marriage where you do that and then pick up where you left off later while you're still healing yourself? So this is kind of just like a perspective. Let's see here, Fluffy Halo. It is problematic to come into a relationship with the mindset that it is an experience that will help me grow individually and with the other person. I don't think folks come in with that intention. It's more so possessive, not free form, like the experience of that makes sense. Yeah. So going into a relationship where you think that this person is going to help you find yourself in some way, shape, or form. If I'm understanding the nature of your comment, Fluffy Halo, when you go into a relationship with the even subconscious intent of trying to find a piece of yourself or trying to learn something or trying to expand on something, what I've noticed in patterns when I've talked to clients is that when they're looking for love, they're like, okay, I'm ready for love. You know, when is my person coming? When is, like, how do I meet my soulmate? Where do I meet my soulmate? And I get these questions a lot, and they're valid. They are, because what are we humans but social creatures? And human growth and development does require companionship. So it's not an invalid thought or question or concern. It's, what is your intent going into a relationship? Why are you looking for a partner in this day and age, at least? Because evolution has consistently changed the definition of what relationships are. So therefore, your intent for relationships. Because if we're anything like each other, we're all hyper independent, even in marriages and relationships. So going back, I guess the question, let me go back and make sure I got all of the comments here. So sure, I think I got it. Okay, is it safe to assume you have received the emotions of your partner? So you are dealing with two people's emotions. Great question. So going back to the first question, talking about energy exchanges, feeling a sense, a wave of sadness. Have you guys have had that before, right? Just out of nowhere, you feel a wave of sadness, you feel a wave of depression, you feel a wave of anxiousness, you feel a wave of anger. Is it safe to assume you have received the emotions of your partner? So you are dealing with two people's emotions. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Energetic boundaries goes back to the beginning of being able to set energetic boundaries for you and your partner, being able to know yourself to the core of your being and know your own emotions. And that's what's difficult when you have depression, is being able to actually process what emotions that you're going through. That's what makes it difficult to understand what your emotions actually are. But let's say that it's safe to assume that you've done the work, and you have experienced depression. I'm also someone that has experienced depression and mental health, and have been in relationships with others experiencing depression and other issues. Is you do the work and you understand what your emotions are, and then you get that wave of sadness or emotions. How are you able to decipher, okay, is this me or is this them? That's where your intuition definitely is going to come into play. It's redirecting it back to the core of knowing yourself, knowing thyself. Because in order for you, from my perspective, and mind you, I was in a over 17-year-long relationship, and I've been single for the last 7 years. So it's a little bit of a off kilter there, but being able to know who you are is really, truly, honestly important. Because if you're wanting to be in a relationship with someone, the question is, why do you want to be in a relationship with someone? What are you wanting to give and offer to someone else? How can you offer and give that to yourself? And how are you able to have healthy emotional boundaries with yourself and with others? And what I mean by that, by healthy emotional boundaries with yourself, is knowing the emotions that come up, knowing what you are in control of choosing to respond to and choosing to react to. Because like you said, you made a really good point about them coming home, kicking their shoes off, getting out of the tub, making a big mess, and like your nurturing instinct comes in and you want to clean all that up. But our triggers too, and knowing ourselves, want to come in too and be like, why are you coming in here making all of that mess? So it almost feels like there's like a healthy balance of knowing what you can choose to respond to, what you can react to. I feel like they had me go on like my own little hamster wheel. I think
No,
that's all I have right now.
yeah, no, I think that what it, again, all of this comes back to is the principle of mentalism, right? Knowing yourself and knowing how much everything it is mental, even in the spiritual world, as above, so below. You know, we have the principle of mentalism and correspondence right here and right now. You know, understanding the nature of one's own energies in it's in not, it doesn't have to be in its entirety, but in as the deeper you go into learning about yourself and knowing about yourself, the better that you can translate energies outside of knowing thyself. So when the girls here say know thyself, it's when it's repetition. I know thyself. I beat it into their brains. Know thyself. So when they're saying know thyself, the explanation to this is, how well do you understand the facets of your mind? And that's going to be your shadow, that's going to be your consciousness, that's going to be your subconscious, that's going to be your unconscious, and that's going to be your higher self. How well do you know yourself? And this is why it's so important in our practice that we do the shadow work and that we acknowledge our own, the accountability part of PACE, that we understand our own subconscious patterns and our own triggers. And when we're learning more about ourselves, you start to catch yourself in these patterns, right? So for example, Abby was talking about triggers. So when we talk about triggers, it's a reminder that something is placing discomfort on a subconscious pattern. That's what we consider triggers in this practice, is that it is a conscious reminder that something is uncomfortable. But in our practice, we go, why? And that's shadow work. So swinging it back full circle to partnerships and relationships, boundaries, accountability, compassion, and empathy. And because the topic of discussion initially was depression, when you're with a partner that struggles with depression, or you are the one that struggles with depression, how do you learn to navigate those energies, right? And Fluffy Halo made a really tremendous comment here saying, when do you know that you're picking up their energies and you're playing out both emotions, right? And then Abby, reminded all of us about Liz's comment about boundaries. Well, how do you learn to set boundaries? It always comes back to us trying to figure out, how do we help you answer these questions, right? It's that, well, I need to set boundaries. Okay, well, how do I do that? That's always the first question, always, how do I set boundaries in relationships? Well, one, do you understand what it is that brings you a sense of discomfort? If so, why does it make you uncomfortable? Well, there was this time when I was 6 that this situation, well, there you go. So we're going back to inner child healing and figuring out what happened at that point and how did it continue to play out? Because what the subconscious is a repeating cycle which creates habits. It's it's not natural. Well, it becomes natural, but it's a habitual response, right? It's a habitual response. So when you, for example, there's some people that can't handle sound, that gets overstimulated by sound. It's because at a very early age, they were constantly getting screamed at and they shut down. So when you're in a partnership and they start getting loud and you shut down, that is a habitual response. That's the subconscious. So first and foremost, you have to acknowledge the reason why you're shutting down in the first place. And that requires sitting down with yourself, knowing yourself, figuring out that cycle. And that's the hard part, is that, in practice, in spirituality and personal growth and development, you want to know the answer ahead of you. You want to know what's coming up next. And what we tell you is based off of what you've been doing is what's going to continue. So when we talk about know thyself, when we talk about, you know, your expectations in relationships and partnerships and marriages, you know, what part of you is applying old habits into a new relationship? Now, for those that, let's just say, have been in established relationships, right? This is gonna, you know, feel free to jump in at any time. For those of you that have been established or have been in an established relationship for, let's say, anywhere between let's do 10 plus years, because first 10 years of marriage is the hardest. Let me tell you, they say the first year is make or break. No, dog, no way. The first 10 years the first 10 years of a relationship. So based off of your experience in the first 10 years of a relationship, what have you guys noticed, or what have you guys learned, I guess I should say, what have you guys learned about energy exchanges from the start of your relationship to 10 years in? Energy shift, be it as drastic as what they call the puppy love phase, to getting to know each other, to being at each other's throats, to learning about that, overcoming it, and then sitting in what Tiff reminded us is sometimes comfort when you just get used to it, right? If any of you guys in the comments have had any experience with that, where you get comfortable in a relationship, and what do you do to navigate through that?
So I want to say, with being someone that's been in a very over 10-year relationship, you get, so there's patterns of it. So I think when you first get together and you're newlyweds, you just want to take on all of their problems and you want to fix them. And without knowing it, you kind of step back into a mother role and you think you want to fix everything. You want to make everything better. And I really feel like part of, is she talking? Am I talking over her? Okay. You get kind of stuck in that mother power. And I think society has really taught us that we are supposed to take on our spouse's problems and we are supposed to fix them. And and that is our job as women. And for a long time, I was conditioned to thinking that, like, if everything is not good, it's because I'm not doing something right. And it wasn't until I started really growing and evolving, I realized I'm only responsible for myself at the end of the day. If you need something and you want to work together and collaborate to get to a solution, let's do it. But I can't do everything. I can't take on your mental load. I can't take on everything for you. I can't take on your growth and development. That's something you have to do yourself. And I've seen this trend, and I think we've all seen this trend on TikTok. Why is there a record number of divorces happening right now that women are initiating? And that's because we are breaking the stigma of that is what marriage is. And a lot of women are done. They're looking at it and going, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not giving up all of my energy into you and your career, your goals, your happiness, your hobbies. I'm not saying I'll stay home and do the laundry and take care of the kids. You can go golfing. And then when you get home, I'll have steak and margaritas ready. And it doesn't matter that I haven't showered, I haven't slept, I haven't done any self-care. We're waking up and saying, no, like, we deserve an equal partner, that if he wanted to, he would. I shouldn't have to tell you specifically what I want, what my needs are. It should be, we can sit down and say what our expectations are, but it should not be where I have to beg for the bare minimum. And I think that is why we are seeing, I don't even want to say I think, I know that's why we are seeing this historic rate of divorces, because we're done. As women, we are absolutely done having to be every single role, and then not even having a filled cup. Do we even have a cup? No, I think most of us don't even have a cup.
I want to jump in, Tiff, and go off that just real quick with astrology, because if you remember last year, Venus went retrograde in Leo, and then a couple of days ago, Venus was squaring the lunar node. So it's like, yeah, we're done. We're done. We're done. We're done. We're done. Absolutely. And I love that. Do we even have a cup? Where is my cup? My cup's not even here. It's dirty in the sink and it's been there for 10 years. Why is it dirty in the sink for 10 years? Oh, because I left it there and I didn't go pick it up. Guess what? I'm going to go to that sink and pick up my dirty cup and I'm going to wash that bitch. That's what I'm going to do. What are you going to do? You go clean up your cup.
And I'm going to set the house on fire while I leave with my cup.
not the setting the house on fire. She's how you still evaluating and change customs piss me off. Yeah. So now kind of shifting while still staying in alignment with the topic of partnerships and relationships. I wanted to shift perspectives once again on you guys, just to kind of see where this goes, because once again, there's always two sides to a situation, right? So the filling emotional cups and no longer falling into that stigma of what society has indoctrinated about marriages, right? That there's, oh, can you guys hear me okay? Am I fading in and out?
You were for a second, but you're good now.
Okay, for sure. So staying on the topics of partnerships and relationships and kind of what we're looking for in new partnerships, or and when I say new partnerships, just to define it, you could be currently in a partnership and looking to renew it, right? Or if you're currently, single and looking for a new partnership, right? So it's just dependent on what your current circumstances are and what you're looking for. That's what I mean by new. So if you're looking for something new in love, right? How would you, based off of what it is that you're looking for, what things would you do differently based off of what you've learned? You're fed up and you're tired, right? Because keep in mind, this year is about karmic justice. So everything is swinging full circle, right? All of the effort that you've put in is coming full circle. Effort you didn't put in is also coming full circle. So you're face to face with a mirror right now when it comes to partnerships, love, and relationships, more or less, right? What do you love and okay, so sometimes all it takes is a sit down with what do you love and what do you believe I need to work on within our relationship? Absolutely. Being able to sit down with a partner that is open to talking about that first and foremost, right? Because now we're talking about philosophies. Now we're talking about belief systems. Now we're talking about, standards and respect. Because when you sit down with somebody and you ask, what do you love? And what do you believe I need to work on within our relationship, right? This is going to come down to where you guys are figuring out what your guys' perspectives are in love and relationships. Okay. Now, is this a first date question?
I ain't wasting my time. Let's go.
How I did it. Hey, yo. What if we kind of create a scenario? First date with your partner that you've been in a relationship for X amount of years. First date scenario with somebody new. What would be some first date questions that you want to be asked? Not that you would ask your partner. What are some first date questions that you want your partner to ask you?
That's
Because
interesting.
again, right? Because again, when you ask them, what do you love and what do you believe I need to work on within our relationship? What is that but a matter of their perspective, right? It's their perspective of your efforts within a relationship, because you could cook, clean, you could work, you could take care of the kids, you could do this. And they're like, well, you could do this better. Okay, so where does that leave the rest of the responsibilities? Okay, so if you think I should do this better, then what can you do to help me do this better? Are they ready for that question? Dee Dee wants to be asked, what are my long-term goals? Give me ideas to take right now for fun. Katie asks, what do you expect of me or from me? Abby asks, how do you want to be treated? Anna asks, how do you show love and how do you receive love? That's a big one. How do you receive love?
I want to be asked, what is the thing that you need? What is the thing you need when you're sad? What is the thing you need when you're angry? What is something that makes you smile? What are your signs when you need support? What's your love language? what's your I'm having a bad day treat? And of course, what's your favorite bookstore? If they can't answer, oh, and I would ask that too, like, hey, when's the last time you've been to a bookstore? Never. Get the check.
Red flag. That is a hard boundary for you. Miss Claire asks, wants to be asked, what healing do you need, if any? Right? Anna asks, do you want to have car karaoke after work? This is such a critical question. Such a critical question. Car karaoke, it is a whole concert. What do you mean? What do you mean? Let's see here. I would like, okay, so a question that Fluffy Halo wants to be asked. Or hold on. No, this is a question that Fluffy Halo has for us. I would like to know what family lineage looks like spiritually. Are you talking about like how we see family trees? Or if you could elaborate. Oh, in a partner. I would like to know I would like to know what that family lineage look like spiritually. Oh, like patterns and such. Oh, karmic cycles and patterns in relationships. Tell me about your parents. Mm-hmm. What kind of generational curse are you carrying? That's the one. That's the one. What songs are we dancing to in the kitchen? Girl, let me tell you something. When you can dance with someone with no music on, Abby just died right now.
I love that so much. You have no idea. That would be like, I'm done. Have me. That's it.
You're like generational trauma, it's fine. We'll deal with it.
You toxic, it's okay.
It's fine. Narcissistic, we'll figure it out. You're like, it's
I
fine.
can fix you.
Oh man. No. They have to ask me, what's your favorite house in astrology? What's your favorite planet in astrology?
The
then I would be dead.
Question. Oh yeah.
Abby, if someone asked you about astrology, you'd be like, guys, it's just a feeling. We're getting married tomorrow.
On a first date too. Oh, we should set Abby up with an astrologist.
Oh, dude.
Imagine if they do that and they quote supernatural.
Uh-oh.
Don't even like, okay, okay, sonic booming over here. No?
I'm just manifesting for you.
I know, because the next thing you're gonna say is like, and they drive the Impala and they kind of look like Dean and
would you change your name to Dean? Is that a possibility? We can make this happen right now. Or at least can I call you Dean? Because we can make that work too.
Anna just says, I can tell about self-care by the state of their feet. If you can't care about your feet, you can't care about anything. No, because please tell me why some men think that just letting the water run on their feet in the shower is cleaning them. Please tell me.
Do you know there's a viral TikTok going around about people not knowing they had to clean their belly button?
No, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me.
And their butt crack.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. That is a lie. All right, here's a science one from Fluffy Halo. What are common fears in your family? Have you heard an experience from an ancestor that was the first to experience that fear? Epigenetics, trauma passing down as fears, phobias, or mental illnesses. Absolutely. You guys want to share your guys' experience with that?
I was just gonna laugh at Katie. I was like, wait, you have to clean your belly button. Katie, no. We know you better than that. We know you.
Okay, so common, or no, wait, who started talking?
Fluffy Halo, what are some common fears in your family? And have you heard of an experience from an ancestor that was first to experience that fear? Epigenetics, so trauma passing.
Okay, I didn't know if I was talking over anybody.
You're good. We can make it a little bit more relaxed, guys.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say what came to me though, my ancestry on my mother's side, mental health, depression, trauma passing. It goes way deeper, but I don't want to go too deep on here. But yeah, it's not the greatest feeling in the world. Some of the common fears that came along with it was actually, oddly enough, is trusting people in relationships, and trusting yourself and being able to trust yourself to be in that relationship. And it kind of comes full circle with the whole depression thing, but it was a lot of mental illness though, and addiction too. So that definitely was a really big one. And that plays a part in relationships as well. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
passing down generational trauma,
yeah.
and connecting with the first ancestor. So when we do past life healing, we go back to the source, right? So we go back to your past lives, right? But you can do ancestral healing, right? So that's where you go back to the first ancestor that initiated that trauma, the fear, phobia, mental illness, or whatever it may be, and it travels down there. So with now, this is just a philosophy or a theory that I have, because again, as far as, proof is concerned or validity is concerned, it's constantly evolving as science is constantly evolving. But from my understanding, when it comes to mental illnesses, is that mental illnesses in this lifetime, right? So if we start with this lifetime first, is oftentimes something that is developed from situations that happened in your childhood. Bipolar, borderline, depression, anxiety, adult onset anxiety, you know, you name it, right? So those types of behavioral mental illnesses actually started earlier than you thought. You're just suffering the consequences of it not being treated in adulthood. So when they say adult onset X, Y, and Z, it's not onset like it just started. It's just you're realizing that over the course of your lifetime, it's manifesting here and right now, right? So now take a look at your childhood and what was established in your childhood as normal, right? And that's where the generational patterns go back to where it started, and studying your lineage and cultural belief systems and backgrounds and all of this stuff, right? So, for example, in my family, one side struggles with addiction, point blank period, struggles with addiction. And the other side are very emotionally avoidant, very Catholic, very, there's a lot of religious trauma there. So coming in, if I were to go back generations to the starting point of this, my family lineage starts before the Spanish colonization of the Philippine Islands, because I'm Filipino. And then my mom's side of the family, there's Native American, mostly Swedish, right? And there's some Irish blended in there. So we're seeing cultural dynamics bleed in over the centuries into who I am now and what I was raised with. So when we're talking about like curse breakers, generational trauma breakers, it's because you right now are becoming very aware of what got you here in the first place, because you're going back you're going back to where the cycle started, and it's all falling on you to break that subconscious pattern. Now, on the other side of things, there are some more genetically based mental illnesses, or what they consider hereditary mental illnesses, for example, like schizophrenia, something that has more of a chemical imbalance. Now, when I see mental illnesses, I'm already looking at chemical imbalances, neurodivergent tendencies. I'm looking at informational processing, hormone imbalances. So when I say chemical imbalances, what I'm looking at is what would you need to function consistently on a daily basis versus where you are at now. So that's where I'm looking at chemical imbalances. For example, if you struggle with PCOS, right? So you have an increase in testosterone, which is also going to have an effect on your mental health, which is also going to have an effect on your gut health, and vice versa, right? If you are diabetic, for example, so insulin and glucose are inverted.
Just to jump in
So
there for a second, B, they just released a study that women with PCOS, I think it's 87% more likely to commit suicide.
oof, yikes. So or at least I should say, when I look at people, right? When I'm doing energetic assessments, your aura says all of it. Your chakras say all of it. Parasites will mess you up mentally too. Absolutely. Gut health has a direct correlation to mental health. Okay. Direct correlation. So ensuring that you are protecting your gut health, your heart health, estrogen, and yep, Miss Katie knows. Did you guys know estrogen is a lipid? And yeah, I just thought y'all should know that. Y'all should know that, which is why sometimes women have a hard time losing weight, because there's an influx of estrogen production. Just letting y'all know. But yeah, that's considered a chemical imbalance. But now going back to mental health and what Fluffy Halo was asking about generational trauma and where it starts and rooting back and all of that, and energy and boundaries and all of this fun stuff. When I go back into seeing who started this shit first, my brain immediately goes into environment, what nurtured the thought process, foods that were commonly ate. In my culture, on one side, both sides it's fish. But I mean, red meats, how cattle or meat was curated, how livestock was treated. I'm looking at all of that. So, and how that one situation had such a traumatic effect on generations moving downward. So I'm looking at the psychological parts, and I'm looking at the environmental and economic parts. And that's how my brain works, is I want to see what curated and nurtured that phobia or that trauma or that mental illness, right? And when I studied mental health, two of the classes that I took focused on severe mental health. So one of my finals in one of my classes, I literally had to pick a case study where the subject was under the age of 12. That was the rubric. We had to pick a subject 12 years or younger that was diagnosed sociopath. And we had this case study. And what we noticed, because these were we did them in groups. And what we noticed at presentations, that it came back to the same thing. It's how they were raised as a child, and abuse. The same thing. And even when, checking brain scans and all of that stuff, for example, I don't know if you guys know this, but when you experience trauma from a third party, you have an emotional traumatic response. So for example, if you were the one watching your sibling experience abuse, you are also taking on a trauma as well, but in an emotional form. So I don't know if you guys know that, but continuing on when it comes to mental health and stuff like that, generational trauma.
And I also learned PCOS is trauma-based now. So if you experience trauma, that's where it comes from. And obviously, looking at both of my families, we have addiction on both sides. We have physical trauma on both sides. We have negligence on both sides. So that's where that comes in. And no one healed that. And then we just kept popping out kids. So now it comes to me where I'm dealing with this physical vessel that has PCOS. I'm trying to break the generational cycles while fighting my body and fighting the mental illness that comes along with having PCOS.
Yeah. So noticing now how, and again, trauma is such a loosely used word with very little context. So just to kind of explain a little bit more on what we're talking about here, trauma translates to wound. Okay, so trauma is a wound. Now, when we're talking about trauma here, we're talking about psychological trauma, meaning events that have significantly impacted your ability to function on a day-to-day basis or think about a situation, or it impacts your ways of thinking, right? That instills fear, that instills paranoia, that instills emotional neglect within self. So that's what we're talking about, trauma, at least in this section. You know, PCOS, for as an example, the heightened the increased volume of testosterone that's produced in the body. What is testosterone? Why does your body need it? To protect itself. So at a very early age, you had to step into a very significant masculine role to protect yourself. Why is that? Because you didn't have emotional support. You were put in a fight or flight response. So in fight or flight responses, you have an increase of cortisol, you have an increase of adrenaline, and sometimes it translates to an increase in testosterone. So now we're not only are we looking at the energetic components of what this does, but now we're looking at the biological components of how it translates. So can we see a relationship or correlation between energy and health? Now it's not even so much about just spirituality as much as it's understanding the dynamics of what energy is to its core, right? Because when we understand that our body at a constant state is regulating millions of external stimuli all at once, and your brain chooses what's important. So I think I mentioned this in a collective reading the other day about, you know, if you buy a yellow car, you're going to notice more yellow cars, right? So it comes down to, what is it that your brain is processing as important? Well, if you're in a constant state of fight or flight, that turns into a natural response for you. It's a natural environment, a natural state. So your brain's not processing, oh, you're in fight or flight right now, you need to panic, or you need to react, or you need to do this, or you need to do that, or you need to do this. All you're thinking about is what's important right in front of you. And that's the thousands of tasks that you can't get done because you're shut down. So swinging it back full circle, friends, partnerships and relationships. Why is it so important to know yourself? Because you're trying to break generational cycles of unhealthy relationship habits. And unhealthy relationship habits are defined by you. So what are some unhealthy relationship habits that you've experienced? Meaning, what are some relationship habits that you don't want to continue in your love life? Not everybody at once. I'll just leave you with that question. Avoid an attachment. Girl, let me tell you something. Avoid it. I'm gonna go now. Just kidding. Avoid different attachment styles in relationships. Y'all, there's anxious, avoidant, and then there's disorganized attachment styles, which is the combination of both. You know, you can be
People
both.
pleasing.
People pleasing. Okay.
Not having to control everything.
There it is. Okay, so
Not having
Anna.
to fix everything.
Okay, so we're not Bob the Builder anymore. So you aren't going to be used or abused, taken advantage of. Your choice is actually your choice and not based on pressure for someone else. Well, disorganized, anxious attachment styles. Yes. Communicating my feelings when I've always had to keep them inside. That's a tough one. You know what I'm saying? Having to keep emotions in for the sake of maintaining peace. That also displaced anger. But that also falls into people pleasing, right? Not communicating feelings for the sake of maintaining peace and lacking confrontation. That's also avoidant attachment too. Avoidant attachments. Avoidant attachment style is someone that disassociates when emotions feel out of control. Right? So the avoidant will feel a sense of anxiousness because there are feelings that they can't control or regulate, so they disassociate. Now, the interesting thing with avoidant attachments, the very important differentiation I want you guys to know is that avoidant attachments, they do not detach, they disassociate. They still give a big shit about you, but they disassociate. So they distance themselves, and it leaves you wondering, what the fuck now? Right? They're still responsible for feeling their feelings and all of that stuff. So we're not giving them a pass. It's just to help you understand a little bit more about avoidance in relationships. The memory loss from disassociation is rough. Absolutely. Grace says, one time I heard you're not only choosing a partner, but the father of your children. That's the one. I have daddy issues. Same. And I visualized the father I needed to visualize, how that partner will treat me. Absolutely. Now, taking this back too, for people that do struggle with this, because it's real, it's very real. I've had clients that ask me these questions, and I feel like it's important to mention. How can you even get to the point of visualizing what you've needed if you've never experienced it before? So that's like parenting, right? Motherhood. You're mothering from a place of what you don't want to repeat, right? But that's trial and error too. So you're learning to be a mom while remothering yourself. So when it comes to visualizing, and it's important for me to reference this because there are people that ask this, how do I even visualize that? What does that even look like? What does that even feel like? Well, they go based off of what they think it looks like, because they're going based off of the opposite, which is the principle of polarity. So they're visualizing what it could be because of what they've experienced in its opposite. For example, if we'll talk about avoidant attachments, right? So they've experienced avoidant attached relationships, which could come from a parent. It could come from a romantic partner. Either way, they know that when emotions get too tough, their partner bounces. Okay. So that's where we also see people that withhold feelings because they're pre-predicting that to happen. And they don't want to experience that anymore. So what do? Well, now they're going to trauma dump. Now they're going to say, you know what? I've been through this, this, and this. I do not want to waste my time and energy on getting to know you. I want to know what your intentions are. I want to know if we're going to get married. And this is on the first date. So that's the trial and error, is realizing that you have to understand the extreme to find the middle. And that's, when it comes to love readings, for example, people want to know the outcome of a relationship when they just got this fool's number. And it's just like, okay, I understand what it is that you're trying to do. And you're in the stages of trial and error of imagining what it is that you want long-term, because you know what you can provide. You want to know that you're going to be safe to do so. You want to know that if you were to express your feelings, that it's not just going to be accepted, but possibly even reciprocated. Right? So friendships too. Absolutely. Absolutely. So watching the Hallmark Channel, get your answers real quick.
One thing that I've been talking a lot with Aphrodite is, she says a lot, like, you can bring the love in, but if you're not ready for it, if you haven't done the inner work, if you are not whole yourself, what kind of love are you going to be bringing in and attracting? Or are you going to get the love you've been seeking and then self-sabotage it because you haven't taken care of what you need to with yourself first? Because a lot of people think, I'll meet them and then I'll get it together, or I'll meet them and then everything's going to be great. It's going to be perfect. I don't have to do anything anymore. Or I'll be whole once I find my person. Not realizing that comes with a whole other bag of tricks.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, which I wanted to add, an important part of that is also not to over fantasize. Because
unless it's with my books, Liz.
Not that kind. That is always okay. But over fantasizing a marriage, what a marriage looks like. And I can speak about this because I had to go through this with my husband, because he came from a place of lots of trauma as a child, abuse, alcoholism, all kinds of stuff, right? His dad has PTSD. And it was a lot. And he over fantasized. He had like this big Cinderella story fairy tale in his head of what a relationship was. and how it was supposed to be. And then leave it up to me, not the most patient one, to pop his bubble.
You're the picture of patience. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Sure. But over fantasizing, because we never got, you know, the love, the attention, and this and that. And then some people watch the Hallmark Channel and you want to find that prince that's going to come and save you. It's not always going to happen that way, especially if you're not working on yourself to know what it is that you're actually looking for. Because you can't just go blindly, like Tiffany said, and, you know, I'm just going to meet and I'm just going to know, and then everything's going to be fixed and hunky dory. It doesn't work that way.
Well,
Because,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, another thing too, to piggyback on top of that, not just fantasizing what you think a marriage should look like, but also trying to fit someone into your manifestation. So you're manifesting this like ideal relationship and this ideal partnership, and you're, you know, manifesting like all like this ideal situation for you to be in, and you're trying to shove it into somebody specifically. Like you're expecting them to be able to uphold this fantasy that you've created when it's not them at all.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like putting somebody on a pedestal. You know, you're only getting a project, you're only giving them an opportunity to perform the way that you want them to perform.
And think about the level of pressure you're then putting on that person to say, hey, I need you to be this. Why aren't you this? Your expectations aren't this. It's not this. And Brittany can tell you, and I can tell you the amount of people that come by and they're like, well, it's not good because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this. It's like, that's not their love language, though. Have you explained your love language to them? Have you explained expectations? Well, I just think they should be this. And it's not who they are.
Right. That comes down to expecting you from other people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Or just having a box. You think that they need to be this box, and if they don't check all the boxes,
right.
then it's not it.
So it's like saying someone who likes to give foot massages, right? And then you have someone like me who fucking hates feet. Don't show me a damn toe because it's off. It's done. Mood over.
Yeah, well, for me, it goes down to the inner child, and like how, like going back into this Aquarian new moon energy is like what society has deemed us to what to expect, what we think love should be because of what we watched when we were little, how we watched our parents together, you know, and experienced their relationship and watching it go on and on and on. And like, so that's the expectations that were fed into our social conditioning. And that's what we're trying to break free from. And that's what's really difficult, is being like, oh shit, I actually was putting you on this pedestal and expecting you to behave like Prince Charming, when in actuality you're just, I don't know, somebody give me another Disney character that's not Prince Charming, but you know, the complete opposite. Yeah, like a knight or whatever. But that knight can still be really, really great. But you have to understand why I have these expectations of you, and then turn around on yourself and be like, well, would I do the same thing then? Would I expect myself to do that? So it's kind of like that back and forth, the scales.
And sometimes they're just a gargoyle. Just throwing it out there.
Sometimes they're just a gargoyle.
I kind of want to piggyback a little bit, because someone with relationship traumas as myself, it's kind of difficult to really understand what is it that you're wanting when you're trying to break those patterns. So you're trying to change what you're attracted to and raise your vibration for someone different. And it may seem boring. It may not be interesting because you're still looking at the red flags when you should be looking at the green flags. You know what I mean? So for me, I think it's more of, how do you really realize that's what you want if you've never had that, even as a child? So it goes into healing those, but it's hard to heal that when you've never had that. So how, and I'll give an example, because Liz actually helped me with this a lot. Even in friendship, I used to be a tight ass. I never laughed. I never thought anything was funny. I didn't know how to have fun. Like Liz will tell you, I'm like the biggest fucking goofball ever. Like, and it took a lot. Like, it literally took a lot for me to think like I will always be like uptight. Like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. Why are they acting like that? You know what I mean? So it's like, and that goes into my relationships that I was with somebody when they'd be like, why are you so uptight? I don't know. I just don't think that's funny. Why don't you think it's funny? It's because I've never had to experience that before. I never experienced what fun was. I never experienced what, playing outside as a child because I had to take care of children as a child myself.
You were
So
never
all
safe
of
to
that
have
goes
fun.
in. So all of that goes into play with you understanding, what is it that you want, but trying to avoid those toxic traits of what you're attracted to because that's what you're used to.
Ain't that the truth?
So I wanted to, we're getting close to our hour because I'm considering it starting at 6 instead of 5.
Please.
It's okay.
Fun fact, everybody had to pee right before.
So there's a couple of comments that I want to read and kind of wrap up for today's session. Coming from Fluffy Halo. So I came across this post that brought up how people can bring themselves into spiritual psychosis by placing a person on such a high pedestals with regards to love in this scenario. The person who thought the person was her twin flame and was so invested into that, she ignored the reality. What are your thoughts on love and psychosis?
I feel like that's
And
a
fantasy.
whole nother podcast.
Yes. I
Great
think that's
question, but I don't think we could dive into that today.
No, I would definitely love to go into that. And then Lexi made a beautiful comment, and I would want to just make a couple comments on that, and you girls can jump in. About marriage. Let me go back up to it. Everyone is different. Let's keep it all open. Okay. Marriage is constant work, but it can be fun work if you keep communicating and feelings open with each other. Never stop dating each other. Absolutely. And I was always told this: if you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life. So if you and your partner choose each other on a day-to-day basis, it's not work. It's just learning how to coexist, right? Interdependence. But another thing too, what people struggle with in when emotions get high in disagreements is that it's not you versus your partner. It's you and your partner versus the problem. And that's oftentimes what we forget in a lot of circumstances when ego gets in the way, right? And then there was one more question about CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, realigning thinking, psychotherapy, and all of that fun stuff. I don't know if you've never had a mental health session with me before. It's one of a couple of methods that I do use in mental health sessions. So I believe in the power of CBT. I believe in a lot of talk therapy, you name it. Absolutely. I love the potential of what it can do when it comes to realigning ways of thinking. It's just a very precarious practice, just because you do have to be very aware of not leading questions. You have to be very careful with not, introducing ideas that are not within that person's range of thinking. So it's important that you do partner up with somebody that has experience in that is well trained in that, and that when you do meet with a therapist or a psychiatrist, that you do have a relationship where you can be open and honest, which is really, really challenging when it comes to therapy, is that building a relationship with your therapist and having that vibe, right? EFT, yes, absolutely. Yeah, dialectical behavioral therapy. Katie knows all about that.
So if we have a couple more minutes, I kind of wanted to go around everybody and have everybody, I don't think we did an introduction, have everybody introduce themselves, go over their services, and then we'll go like one soup and do like a funny story, a fun fact, just to end it on a little bit of a fluffier note.
Love that. Love that. All about it. Liz, why don't you go ahead and start?
Isn't death supposed to be last?
Death is first. Death starts the party.
This practice, we're death first.
Technically, Miss Lovers. So I'm Liz, I'm death. What can I say? I do a lot of stuff. I can do Akashic Records. I do workings. The Egyptian pantheon is my baby. That is my thing. I think it was middle school when they started to teach about mythologies and like the different things and whatnot. And that's when Egypt came up, and it was like hyper focused tunnel vision. That's all I saw. And that's how I've been. It's always been Egypt. So I work a lot with the Egyptian pantheon. They're not the only pantheon I work with. I work with Orishas, and I work with, a few different others. But the main ones are the Egyptian pantheons, and they have led me to learn Egyptian numerology, which is different than, I forget what the other numerology is called. But it's very different. It's very, everything is pretty much based around the gods when it comes to the Egyptian pantheon and what they stand for, what they mean, what they help you with, and things like that. They've taught me a lot about myself, which is hard.
The absolute hardest.
Ego death after ego death after ego death for a triple fire is hard as hell. It's hard, but it's not impossible.
Thank you, Miss Abby.
I know you were going to call on me next. Hi, I'm Abby the World. I am a lunar specialist and shadow guide. I work with the lunar goddesses, the goddesses of the moons in the universe. I work in the Celtic pantheon, and I also work with the Roman pantheon, and I also work with the Greeks. And I've got like everybody up in here for the most part. It's usually a party that's going on. But with my ancestry, it is with the Celtics and the Norse as well, and the Scottish too. I work with I think I already said that, lunar phases and shadow healing and astrology. My brain is like glitching because it's the new moon in Aquarius, so obviously it's going to glitch. Yeah, so astrology is my heart and soul though. I've got, what is it? Dark and sultry. I should know these things.
What is your favorite service that you're giving right now?
It is the Dark and Sultry Synastry Report. I think it's really, it's actually something really kind of new for me to do. I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone. I typically don't go into that type of astrology reading. So it's part of my healing that I'm doing. Ha ha ha. Everybody laughs at me, but they love it too at the same time. So it's great. Dark and Sultry Synastry Reports is I'm going to look at you or your partners, or if you're single, I can take a look at your chart solo. If you're with someone, I'm going to take a look at your 5th, your 7th, your 8th, and your 9th houses, and then focus on your Venus and your Mars, what your love languages are, how your Venus and your Mars kind of like go back and forth with each other, how they aspect with each other, who's more dominant, who's more submissive. It can get pretty spicy. There's a oracle pull that I also will provide that's going to give you some spicy insight. I don't want to give too much away on that. Really excited for that. And then if you're single, I can tell you how or where you can find your soulmate or your person. It's really interesting how that's going to work. And the other one is my healing aftercare with Liz, with her spiritual transformation. All that information is in the bio, but the healing aftercare is more of so we've got dark and sultry, and then we have healing aftercare to meet with the shadow through more of a soft and nurturing type of way. So it's kind of like that balance of light and dark.
Love that.
And I love supernatural. Yeah.
Yes. I love supernatural.
That's me.
Liz, just to kind of go back to answer to make sure you answer this question, what's your favorite service that you're providing right now?
The second healing. It's amazing. I mean, it's kind of hard because I like the workings too. I love it. I love it. I love ripping the truth out of people. But the second healing is amazing because you get to see where, we all kind of know where someone starts when they come to you, where they have all these fears and anxieties and like their brain is going 500 miles a minute, and after the healing, you still go through it, which is why meeting with Abby is so important, because she helps you to navigate all of that after I bring it up. Because yes, we rip it out, but it has you feel your feelings, and it has you deal with it so that you can heal it, so that you don't keep repeating the same patterns and the same generational traumas and all of that. So we can break everything down. I rip it out because I'm chaotic. It's what I do. Rip it out, and Abby comes in and gives you a hug and puts you back together.
Very much so. We find what our strengths are. Okay, we find what our strengths are, and we figure it out together. V.
Hey, I'm V, the magician. I do a lot of things, but main focus right now is people know me for more the chakra work. So the realignment, the cleansing of the chakras, getting you back in alignment, bringing up those blockages so that Liz can rip it out and then Abby could put you back together. I also do Reiki. My Reiki is a little different. If you book a Reiki session, I go to your energy and see what kind of Reiki you're needing. So everyone's Reiki is going to be completely different depending on what your spiritual team says you need at the moment. I also do tea reading. Those are emailed readings. I do have some new services that will be more in depth probably next week. I'm going to be doing remote home cleansings and in-person home cleansings if you are in the Phoenix, Maricopa County area. And I will be collabing with Bo actually next week with that, just to get it jump started. But my favorite is the chakra healing, because I do like to help people with the blockages and have them understand, you know, what chakra and why they are going through what they're going through. I think, oh, and then I do a lot of ancestral work. So I'm basically more ancestral working. My main, I have so many ancestral ancestors, it's ridiculous. But my main focus, I work with the Orishas. So Orishas I mainly work with. I do work with a lot of other pantheons, too many to name actually. So I'll keep it light. But I also am a descendant and work with the Tainos, Puerto Rican aspect of my ancestors. So that's who I mainly work with. Let me see, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
I think you got your favorite service, which is the chakra cleansings.
Mm-hmm.
Magician, love it. I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Good. Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda. I'm the Wheel of Fortune. Newly the Wheel of Fortune, was the Hermit, then was Judgment. I've been chilling. I have been. I'm so tired. I'm gonna start. Well, my favorite service that I offer is also my big one, the Wheel of Fortune one, because I really enjoy. It's an hour and a half long, so I can really sit with somebody and kind of get to know them a little bit better, rather than just meeting someone and them asking a question. I like to look at a person as a whole. I look at karmic cycles, timelines, things like that. I remember when I first went to see Brittany, I didn't know I was a timeline jumper, and I had to figure out how to recognize when I was jumping from timeline to timeline and then hone it in and kind of eliminate a lot of them that I was going in between. So I also offer a service where I talk to the Norns. I work with the Norse pantheon. So like Odin, Thor, Freya, even Loki sometimes. And the Norns, they're the fates. So the past, present, and the future. And I have that service as well, where I can look at the thread that goes between your past, present, and future. even if it's past life. So I can kind of see where cycles are there and what needs to be addressed and what needs to be healed and how to get you moving forward on your highest timeline and where you want to be and what your goals are. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. I have a service for Valentine's week. I can answer questions, and I'm going to consult Freya about your relationship or if you're looking for one. But yeah, my brain feels mushy. So if I'm forgetting anything, please tell me.
No, you got it all.
Awesome.
Tiff?
So hello, I am Tiffany. I am the Lovers. I was the Fool before, and then I was upgraded to the Lovers. I joined the company to just do customer service, and forever that's what I thought. Quickly, I started running the whole business. No, I'm just kidding. And so it evolved from that, and then eventually I got away from myself and I started offering services. And I am pleased to announce that that is officially my main business now. I am stepping away from my social media business and I am going full force into the spiritual business. Finally, I think my team is very much tired of throwing my head into the wall, Brittany included. Brittany included. So that is big. We have a lot of really great things coming that I will be bringing forward. Right now I do book divination. So you see all these books behind me and I can do divination with them. All the ladies in here have had them and have given me great feedback on them. I channel really hard. I can't tell you what I channel about later, but I channel really hard by the books. We've stumbled a lot of things with that. Right now, I also have a Valentine's Day special where I am working with Lady Aphrodite to answer your questions around love, whether it's a past relationship, current love, self-love. Let me tell you, she goes deep with some people. She's given Lily's Apothecary shopping lists. She's given frequencies. So she wants everybody to be in their best order. And we also have coming a romance book club that goes over how romance books can heal. And if you are new to reading Spice, I will hold your hand and we will get through it together. But many, many great things to come. But don't worry, I will still be telling you why Brittany is running late and I will still be answering your emails.
Damn, dog. You had to call me out like that.
I
Listen,
love you.
is never late. Everyone else is just simply early. Just kidding. No, I'm hella late sometimes. No, these are my girls. Do you guys know me? Do I have to introduce myself?
This is our friend Jenny.
Hello, I'm Bill. I have a couple of ideas, here and there. I think I can read some things a couple times, talk to spirit. No, I'm just kidding. No, my name is Britt. I am the high priestess and the Hierophant. At first, my company brand was around the high priestess because of the pantheon that I do work with mainly, but also my ability to be able to talk to pretty much anybody. So my role here in this world is to be a messenger and to serve the collective. And the best ways that I have been able to navigate that, honor, to be honest with you, is through education. So my focus is mental health because the principles that I live by are the 7 Hermetic principles, which does come back to the ancient Egyptians. And even beyond that, the Atlantic period where Hermes actually came from. So I built this business on the premise that I needed help. I wanted to know about who I was and why did I have to go through so much as a child? And what was the purpose of all of this? And how the hell did I make it this far? And so at first it started off as tarot readings, and it started off as helping you guys kind of find clarity with what you were feeling, right? And just let you know kind of where you're at to create a community where you didn't feel alone, right? Because there is a knowing that you're not alone, but you can't kick the feeling of being alone, right? And I wanted to figure out how to fix that. That was where my Bob the Builder kind of kicked in, was I wanted to fix that feeling of feeling alone. So I started this community on the premise that I needed help. I needed help. And that's where my shop first started. Was Spirit has always been talking to me about herbal medicine and things that I've needed, and that's where the shop started. You know, fire magic and herbal magic and all of these things. Again, my practice coming, you know, my roots are in the Sumerian, within the Sumerian gods, but they've translated to what we know as the Goetic demons, and ironically more into the Christian pantheon. So now I've backtracked and backtracked the religion to the Canaanite mythology and kind of seen the pieces in between of how it all kind of goes together. But I serve the light and the dark. But in this practice that I have is what I've noticed is every single person I meet was born in the dark, and they're trying to find the light. And that's the hardest part is that when you are born into such desolate, dark spaces, you don't know where up is. And I've spent the best years of my life in a traditional education. The last 8 years of my life I've spent studying in traditional settings and learning from experts and learning from professionals, because I wanted to figure out all of the information I could to compile it into one place. What is the foundation? What does everybody need to understand about themselves? And that's where this came from. Was it started off with tarot. And I know tarot is very entertaining, and I know that tarot is very helpful, and tarot can, you know, tarot is the text messaging of, you know, the cosmos. And it can be very scary learning how to communicate with something on the other side that you can't see, but you can feel. But how difficult is it to talk to someone that you can feel when you don't understand your feelings? So that's where we've kind of come into play here with the skills that everybody has. Now, mind you, every single one of these girls have been an academy student or an apprentice of mine. So they have the foundation, but they have done their own extensive research outside of this. And I tell every single one of my students that do not take everything I say at face value. I take what I say as a way of seeing the world differently, because I will never tell you what to believe in, but I will make you question everything that you believed in to make sure that you're constantly growing and evolving. So my teaching styles, as you guys have probably experienced tonight, is starting a topic and letting you guys kind of think about it, but then switch it on last minute to make sure that you guys are still thinking, right? And that's my teaching style is I introduce a topic to kind of get your brain going, and then I flip it on you to see if I can get you to think a little bit differently and see the world differently. Mental health is very important to me. It always has and always will be. And the evolution of this business is growing at such a rapid rate that I would not be on my 2 feet if it weren't for these girls. And it has grown so quickly in such a short amount of time because of these girls. And it's been such an honor getting to know so many of you as well. Thousands of you all over the world that I've had the honor of being able to just get to know, you know, to be that ear, that shoulder to cry on. And it's quite a blessing to be able to sit in this position. And these girls, they mentioned tarot cards, the major arcana. So that's, again, kind of swinging it back to tarot. There are lessons involved in each of these cards. So in case you guys are wondering how they get these cards or what they did or why they are these cards, it's because of their soul's purpose and their soul's alignment and their lessons. And these girls have started off at a card, at a lesson, and they will always continue to learn about the foundation of where they came from. They will always be that card, and then they will continue to evolve into where they are at now, the evolution, because they have yet another evolution to go through Linda's gone through her third evolution and she's in it right now as the Wheel of Fortune, and these girls will evolve once again. But they will always remain the star and death and what she comes up next. You know, Abby will always be the moon and the world and what comes up next. And V will always be strength and the magician and what comes up next. And Tiff will always be the fool and the lovers and what comes up next. So it's a constant evolution and cycle changing. But if you're not growing, ladies, you are dying. And that's the last thing I want to see for you guys when you hold so much potential and purpose in this world. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here, my ladies included. This is just the first.
Do not forget that we have a 69% off coupon that is going to expire just in a couple hours. It has everyone has at least one service on there. I have my book divination. Brittany has her 30-minute, her 60-minute for deity confirmation and messages and natal chart. You guys got to chime in. I can't remember all of them all of a sudden.
Dark
No, you're
and
good.
sultry.
Dark and Sultry's in there. Wheel of Fortune. Tea
Yeah,
readings, rituals,
Tea readings and Reiki.
I
Reiki.
have my truth be told and the cord cuttings.
Let me tell you about Truth Be Told
Big
really quick.
bargains, you guys. Like when I see the bookings coming in, when I see the amount taken off, and you guys like, we're not doing another big one like this again. So if you want it, get it now. This is a hefty discount.
Yeah. So tomorrow, so when we say, so I forgot that today was Friday because I forget I would forget my left hand if it wasn't attached to me and if I didn't have Tiffany, to be honest with you. The code ends tomorrow. I forgot. So it's Saturday until it's good till the 10th. So you guys are good. Today's the new moon in Aquarius. So we'll be celebrating that. So you guys have, tonight is encouraged just because spots are filling up quick. As far as
And it
appointments
expires different in different time zones differently. So I don't want to give you an exact time because I get emails all the time, but you guys don't wait till the last minute. Like get it now and get it taken care of. And the spots are going really quickly. Yeah.
Just get it in, get it on. Let's get it on. Sorry. Okay.
And for being in here, if you guys want to email me at info
at the Healing Honu.
I will put you guys in a drawing and one person will win an even bigger discount for being here for our first one while we're fumbling around.
Yeah, for all your guys' patience, just because we appreciate that. We are grateful for patience. We are grateful for you because without you, we wouldn't be here. And it sounds cheesy as hell, but like that's what a community is.
Info at the Healing Honu. I'll type it in the chat.
Legit.
Can someone type in the chat? This is recording.
Yeah, we would not be here. That's what we're in the business of, is serving the collective and being here for you. So we wouldn't be out of business if we don't have you. So
that's up.
What we're here for.
That's what's up. So serving the collective. One crazy bitch at a time. I love you all. Can we close out with a new moon related thing? Absolutely. So I'm actually going to continue to stream on Instagram. I've been on Insta this whole time.
Is that why I thought you were talking to yourself?
Always. I always am, but I'm also talking to people on Instagram. But yeah, moon cards. If you guys want to jump on your guys' own lives, if you guys want to split off and do your own lives, if you want to, Abs, if you want to do shadow filthy shadow readings, dirty, filthy, dirty. Just kidding. She's gonna turn red and implode if I say that again. If you want to
fine.
All that you're more than welcome to. But
I can recant in depth the last book I read, item by item, and then we can pull divination for it. But you have to listen to me ramble for at least 30 minutes. You guys don't even know. Every meeting I'm like, you guys, I read this book. They all have to sit there and listen to it every time.
So we're definitely going to talk new moon and new moon things and manifesting on Insta. If you guys want to jump over there, Abs, I do suggest that you go live, my love. Option.
I have to go pee first.
Every time.
Have at it, sister. Okay, my loves. Don't forget to drink water. Have a good night.